So I think everyone derives happiness from internal sources and external sources. Now, so more than ever, people rely on external sources. I don't agree with that. I don't think that's what you should do. I think all the happiness that you get should come from what you do, your actions, how you feel, and how you make other people feel. I think external happiness is too broad and too vague to get into right now. There's too many factors, too many things that people get happiness from that they don't have any control over, or they don't instigate. They just take happiness from it. And everyone, to a degree, gets their happiness externally. Like for me, it might be like a YouTube video I watch, but there's different degrees of it, and I think it's important to keep it minimal. So in terms of internal happiness, which is what I think you should get most of your happiness from, I think it can be broken down into three main sections. So one of these sections is achievement and progress, which is essentially anything where you're going towards your goals. You see that you're improving, you see that you're getting better, and you're going closer to your goals than you were before. And that should bring you happiness. And what comes along with that is discipline and hard work. Some people struggle to understand the perspective of discipline is freedom, but the way I like to look at it is think about if you weren't able to control your mind, how would that make you feel? If you couldn't do the things that you know you needed to do, imagine how that would make you feel. And also imagine how that would impact your happiness as a result of stunting your progress towards your goals, because you wouldn't be able to do things that you just didn't feel like doing. You wouldn't get there fast enough. You would lose. Someone else would get to your goal before you. The second thing I think is relationships. I think I'm talking even more so about family and friendships rather than like actual relationships in terms of like dating. Having good people around you makes everything else better. Having positive people around you makes everything else positive. Like you can be in the worst situation, but if you're with your boys, it should be funny, you should be laughing at it. Also, family is very important. You need to maintain a good relationship with your parents, your siblings. Like those people are never going to leave you or forget about you. They're always going to be there for you. So always maintain that relationship with your family and make sure you're putting effort into it always, because that's really important. And the last thing I think is important in terms of happiness internally is your influence on other people, or you could also say social impact. So by this I mean how you impact the lives of people around you. It could be as small as giving money to someone who gives you a small amount of happiness by something they did, like tipping a waiter, for example. Or it could be listening to a friend when they need you to listen to them. That's another way of helping people. It could be giving to charity, donating, or it could be giving people advice. Like anything that you feel has a positive impact on other people will make you feel good as well. There's also other internal factors you can get happiness from. Like I'm not saying that's all of them, but I think most things sort of fall under those, and I think that should account for probably like 70 or 80% of your happiness, and the other part should be external. If you think of those three things that I just listed, so progress and achievement, relationships, and social impact or influence, if those three things come to your mind and you think, I don't get happiness from any of those things, it's likely that you rely a lot on external happiness. The problem with that is you can't control these things that make you happy. It's all external. And oftentimes these external sources don't benefit you. Everything that I said under those three factors, all the examples I gave, doing those things is going to benefit you, not only by making you feel happy, but it's just going to improve the quality of your life in general. You have to work harder, and it also feels harder doing these internal happiness things. Like the external things come easy. It's like you feel happy so quickly, but there's no actual benefit from it. It's like almost fake happiness, and it doesn't get you anywhere. So if you end up relying loads on external happiness, you sort of stay in the same place, but you still feel happy. In the long term, you end up depressed or really upset with the position you're in, because all you've been doing is happy things that are external and don't actually make your life any better, but they just give you that short-term happiness, and you do them continually because you want that happiness to keep going. But as a result, you don't actually progress. You don't go anywhere. You sort of almost forget about your dreams, forget about what you really want to do. Think about what makes you happy day to day right now, and how much of that is external. How much of it comes from other people or things that aren't really real or things that don't really benefit you. Focus on switching it over very slowly, because you can't go from 0 to 100. You can't go from being addicted to all these things, like all these short-term happiness dopamine things, and going to like doing none of it. It won't work. That's just, your body can't do that. You'd have to go very slowly. So start focusing more on your relationships with your parents and your siblings, if you have any. Trying to give more to some people, being more caring, maybe listening to friends more. Those things are the things that you want to slowly focus on, and eventually that will build up, and that will be where you get most of your enjoyment from. I think out of those three, the main thing is progress and achievement. Like, that is what you should derive most of your happiness from. I'm going to make another video on this, but it's like focus on the numbers. Make sure that everything you do in terms of progress towards your goals, you can measure it in some way. Like, make sure your goals are all measurable, so that when you're working, you can see the improvement, and you can see when you're not improving. That should drive you. Don't make the mistake of when you start to plateau, or even go back to where you started and you're not improving anymore, you're going backwards. Slow down. That's the complete opposite of what you want to do. You need to, instead of slowing down, you need to pick up the pace and work twice as hard. Right, I went on a bit of a tangent there, but that's how I like to think of happiness, in terms of how I like to get my happiness from things. And I think generally, like, that's human nature. Loads of those things are human nature related. They're quite low level things. It's not like TikTok scrolling and all this stuff that's, you know, like a really high level distraction. It's like, no, this is quite close to nature. These are things that we used to do, just in a different way. So it makes sense that those are things that we should get happiness from. It's just nowadays I feel like lots of people don't, and I think that's a bit of an issue. I got this video idea from a friend who messaged me, not being able to understand how the mindset of being so disciplined and strict on yourself makes you happy. He couldn't understand how being disciplined relates to happiness. He thought it would just be miserable, because obviously he isn't a very disciplined person. Which is nothing wrong with that, right? I think the most important thing with things like this is being self-aware, and he is self-aware, and I respect him lots for this. And also I respect him for being interested in my perspective. But I just thought that was quite funny, because to me it makes perfect sense that the more disciplined you are, in a way, the more happy you are, because the more simple it is to be happy. You're not such a complex person, and you can control your happiness as well. You have more control over your life because you control your mind, you control your actions. But yeah, this is a really long video just on paper. Hopefully I'll edit it down to about 8 minutes. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed.